Hello everyone, Brother Al McLean with this week's stewardship video. And as always, before we go too far, there's a disclaimer. No advice should be seen as a recommendation or an endorsement as I'm not a licensed financial advisor. And this is for educational purposes only. You want to do your own research. So this is a continuation from last week's video when we were highlighting the spending part of the four biblical ingredients that Paul DeJong talks about in his book, God, Money, and Me. So I'm highlighting the spending portion, and this is part two. So let's start with an applicable scripture. Proverbs 24, 3 and 4 in the Living Bible says, any enterprise is built by wise planning, becomes strong through common sense, and profits wonderfully by keeping abreast of the facts. And the way you can keep abreast of the facts when it comes to spending is a spending plan, or some may call it a budget. I don't like the word budget. Right, reminds me of diet. I prefer spending plan. It's how I'm going to spend my money. But as Paul Young talks about, we're going to be intentional and disciplined in our spending. And the only way I know to do that is through a spending plan. So, what are the steps to it? So, I would say go to compassfinancialministry.org. Here, you can take a picture of this link. It'll take you right to a ebook called Your Money Counts. And in that ebook, I think it's chapter 14, it goes into the steps to creating a budget and even has a downloadable budget that you can start off. And I know there are budget apps out there if that's what you're comfortable with. The important thing is you want to keep abreast of the facts, as scripture says, whatever method works for you so that you can be consistent with it and stick with it. So you see over to the right, this is a downloadable one that they have that you, if you go out to uh, this website, and you can do that and get the ebook. And so the step one says you want to begin where you are, which means that you want to know what your current situation is. And a lot of us don't know what that is. We want to find out how much income we have coming in, and then where is our outgo? What are we spending our money on? And we want to track that for at least a month. And there's some easy ways to do that. You can go actually to your bank um, online, and you can actually download the transactions, or you can just look at a banking statement and just go through and check what have you spent your money on, which is of course ATM. If it's cash that you're spending, get into the habit of getting a receipt with everything that you do, and that way later on you can put it into whatever means you like, either an online app or even a spreadsheet. I like a spreadsheet, or just normal list of things. But the important part is step one is determining where am I? What's my income I'm bringing in, and where am I spending my money on? And then step two is you want to solve the problem of where do you want to go, right? And typically, a lot of times we may determine that we're actually outspending what we bring in. So that's where we come up with the downloadable budget, which says, okay, this is where I want to do, right? This is where I am, which was step one. And now, how do we get to that point? How do we get to the step two, which is this is what we want the budget to look like, or the spending plan to look like. And here's a reference here that'll help you. This is also in that Your Money Counts book, and you can see the link below here again. It gives you a percentage guideline. And again, this is only a guideline, and it says they did a study of successful households and what those who were staying below their means or within their budget, this is how they were spending their money, and this is by percentages. And you can always reach out to me if you really understand percentages and you work through it, or you can just these days go out on YouTube and have them explain to you how do I calculate percentages on my budget. And so you can see these are the ones that they have, and not everyone's going to fall exactly in there, but it gives you a range. And again, this study that they did was on a successful household, which was defined as below their means, right, or staying within a budget and were successful, not going into debt or further into debt. These are the percentage they typically were spending. And then finally, step three is don't stop. That's why it's important to get a tool that works for you, that you're consistent with, right? So you can go, as we go back to that Proverbs, keep abreast of the facts, right? Keep abreast of the facts. So don't worry if you start off and it's rough and it's just not, just keep sticking with it. And it's like a muscle. If you keep working it, you'll get better and better. And eventually, it'll be second nature to you on doing your spending plan and keeping up with where your outgo is going compared to your incoming. So with that, let's change as we always do. Take a look at the market. We're starting to end earnings season, getting toward the end. We've got a couple of big companies still reporting. We've got like Kohl's that'll give us an insight into consumer spending. We've got Dell Computer, Ulta. The one I'm really looking for, and the whole market is going to be looking at, is NVIDIA. NVIDIA, because that is right in the center of this artificial intelligence revolution and what's going on, this bull run that we're seeing in technology. And that's NVIDIA. They're reporting close of business on this coming Wednesday. So everyone's going to be looking at that. And with that, there's an opportunity because of this all this expenditure that's going on in artificial intelligence. I looked up using uh, online source, what are the top five customers of NVIDIA? And they listed them here: Amazon, Microsoft, Alphabet, Meta, and Oracle. And I asked also, because artificial intelligence and especially data centers takes a lot of electricity. And so I looked at what's the annual electricity use of these companies, right? And then it gave you an equivalent, because I don't understand what this wattage was, but it gave a country equivalent to the usage. So Amazon, for instance, is comparable to Jordan or Ghana. That's a lot of electricity. Microsoft by themselves, more than Serbia or Ireland. So that's an opportunity there. So I said, what are the top energy companies that are powering this artificial intelligence infrastructure? And I asked for the stock symbols. So here are a couple of them. I only knew two of them, which was Next Era Energy, and then here's the stock symbol, and Constellation. Those two I didn't know. This one I didn't know. Talon, and then this one is private. So right now it's not available for publicly traded. And then Brookfield Renewable Partners, didn't know about them. So again, not a recommendation. This could be an opportunity to do your own research, because one of the things is NVIDIA, with their earnings and especially their projected forward-looking earnings, there's a lot of power needed for artificial intelligence. So there could be a possibility there or an opportunity. Another thing I want to look at is, here is the exchange traded fund for it, XLU. And that'll give you an opportunity just to do it from a more broader sense if you don't want to do a specific company. And another way you can do it, if this is a little rich, $87.32 a share, you can open up, like I did just recently, a Fidelity account, and you can do a fractional by dollar amount, even with exchange traded funds. Then finally, I want to look at, um, you've been hearing about the rate cut, possible rate cut that could be happening. Now, this was August 16th. This was the probability. 92% chance on September 17th there was a rate cut. Well, that went down slightly based on the Jackson Hole, which is the annual federal Fed meeting with all the different Fed governors and chairs from around the world. And based on something that Chairman Powell said, it actually went down, but it's still a high percent that there will be a rate cut on September 17th. And finally, we look at, I haven't done this in a while. This is small cap price range, and this is IWM, which is exchange traded fund for smaller companies. And you can see it's took off. And why did it take off? Because when you cut rates, typically small companies benefit. So I haven't looked at that in a while. And here's QQQ. We always look at that, and SPY. So both of them were up at the end of the week based on the potential that there's still a rate cut coming, even though it dropped down a tremendous amount. And so, with that, that's the stewardship video for this week. And as always, remember Jesus is Lord, therefore, He's the owner, but we are His faithful stewards following His principles. And remember, one of the principles is keeping abreast of the facts. And what is the tool that we talked about? The spending plan. We'll see you next week.